I want to look at adding author names and year of publication together with reference has role and naming the publication as a Wikidata item. This is most easily done by attacking via a particular author. And the author we're going to look at or look for is ESEAPSubmissionAhyong. And the place to look is in IRMNG, which is the Interim Register of Marine and Non-Marine Genera. And, oops, I don't think I adjusted this. Let me just go back to our thing here. Zoom. No, I haven't. I want to share my screen. Okay, sharing my screen. I'm looking at the Interim Register of Marine and Non-Marine Genera, and this happens to be an Ahyong species, but I've actually brought this up because this is one of the most convenient databases, certainly for marine stuff, to find author names. Oh, well, for anybody really. And so we're going to go hunting for author names, and we're going to go looking for Ahyong. And so for that, I need the advanced search. So I'm going to go to search taxa, and I'm going to go to advanced search. I'm going to ignore the scientific name. I'm going to say not begins with, but contains Ahyong, because these databases are maintained over hundreds of thousands of records. It's really difficult to get everything right, and lots of things are wrong. We're going to choose genera and species, and subspecies if you like to. So lower than or equal to is what we want, and then we hit the search button. I haven't bothered to choose an area. Sometimes this is really necessary. If you've got two authors authoring in different fields, it really makes sense to limit yourself to a particular field. But here it's not necessary for ESEAPSubmissionAhyong. So we go search. And as you can see there, we've got a list of, let's see, 203 matching records. And we're showing the first 100 records, and we can download the results. Now, I've previously downloaded these results, but let's just, I choose comma separated is fine for these. Sometimes if you're downloading GBIF files, for example, I think TSV is better if you can get it. And so we could have chosen text file. I chose comma delimited. And I then go download and hit that button, and I get a choice as to where to save it. I'm not going to bother to save it, but you can see it saves with the date, and all I need to put in there is Ahyong, and I'd be in business. I'm not going to save it because I've already done this. I'll just turn that off. And so I'll cancel that, and I'll go to where I have it. I've actually got it here, and we'll show all. I'll reset everything here, and you can see it's come in with 203 rows. Now, some critical things that I've done there before doing anything, I didn't bother to facet on anything. I attempted to reconcile all of the scientific names. As you can see, I'm missing publications for some things. Some things have already gone up. Let's just show, and I always put in a column, which allows me to know which ones I've entered. So I'm just going to facet on this column, text facet, and I'm going to choose the ones that are blank and include them. Okay. The obvious thing to do next is actually, and I did it not on this field, I did it actually on the accepted field. Let me just shift this if I can. And I'll shift this to real nuisance, these things. I'm going to try and move along. I need to find my, seem to have got something strange here. Let's just close that. That might help. And I'm moving along. I actually had a field called original. Oh, sorry, this was the authority accepted. And what I did, I faceted on this originally, and yes, the field I should have faceted on is come along. I should have faceted on this, and actually I should copy it. I should edit the cells, edit the column. I'm going to add a column based on this column. I want it to be identical for the moment, and I'm going to call it AUTH, author original, and I'm going to say OK. And what I want to do with that is I'm going to facet on it, text facet, and these ones are really dodgy. Why have they got brackets? We'll probably ignore those, but I'm leaving them for the moment. Some of these are fine. You can see when it's two authors, they're split by an ampersand, and then we get a comma going on to the year. We have trouble if we've got three authors. So I'm just going down to look for three authors. Now there's one. Now I'm going to include all of these ones here. So I'm just going to include those. Oops, and I'm going, oh, I shouldn't have included them. I wanted to actually, I want to actually remove that first comma because that's telling me I've got three authors. So I want to edit these, and I'm just going to put in an ampersand here. Now the reason for that is I want to split this field, and I want to split on the comma first of all to allow me to get the year easily. So I'm going to say apply is the magic word, and we look for the next one that looks like that. Let's edit it and replace that first comma that's separating authors with an ampersand. Apply. I've got another one there, edit. And one of the nice things about doing it this way is it edits all of the ones that are faceted in this manner. So I'm changing them all. Edit, ampersand, and oops, I'll put in an extra space. Apply. Get out of the way, you rotten thing. Apply. There's another one. Edit. Ampersand. Apply. This one I need to edit too. Edit. Place with an ampersand. Apply. They're all right. We've got Taylor down here. We need to fix that one too. Edit. Ampersand. And apply is the magic word. And working my way up. That's all looking pretty good. Okay, so the obvious thing now would be to split to get the year, and I would split that on the comma. So I'm going to edit the column, and I'm going to split into several columns, and I'm going to not remove the column, and I'm going to split by separator comma, and comma space actually should do it, but I'll just do it by comma because we can tidy it up later. Okay, and you can see now I've got one that looks funny. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to change all of these. I'm going to do a common transform, and I'm going to change those all to text. And I'm going to call this, I'm going to edit the column, and I'm going to rename the column. I'm going to call it year O, only because I've done year for the year O. Okay, now the obvious thing is to rename this. I'm just going to call this authors, I think. So again, I'm going to rename it, edit the column, rename the column, and I'm going to call it authors. I think that's safe. I'm not absolutely sure, but I think it is. It'll tell me if it's not. I know it's already named, so I have to go, okay. Got to choose something else. Edit column, rename this column. I'm going to call it A. That'll do it. Okay. And I'm going to now split on the ampersand. I don't need to keep this because I've got the original here. So I'm just going to split on the ampersand without keeping this column. So edit column, split into several columns, and I'm going to split on the ampersand, and I'm going to tidy up later because it may be that I've forgotten to put an extra space in or something like that. So I think I'm safe to remove the column now, and I'm going to go OK. And you can see I've got 3 authors, A1, A2, A3, which is terrific. And I know that this is, I'm going to reconcile on the first one, start reconciling. And I'm not faceting at all here because I think we can have a go at getting all of the first authors. It's a human, we know that. We've only got a limited number, so I don't think I need to have that there. I'd like to inspect rather than have it match. It can be annoying. You can get matches that you really didn't want. We're only interested in Shane T. Ayong, so I'm going to do the double click on that, match this item and all identical cells. So we've got that. This wasn't identical, but we'll match it to all identical cells. Okay, we've got the first page there. That's fine. I'm not going to go any further. A2. Now, I'm going to do all of these, or at least get something up. Doesn't matter if every part of every column is reconciled. I mean, we can go to the next page and you see these, some of those are reconciled, but some of them aren't. Most of them are because these are mostly Shane T. Ayong. But you can see that we've got some strange and wonderful things here. I'm going to have a crack at reconciling A2. And I've got 2 links. I thought they were different, but they're in fact the same. I'm going to, it is a human, so that's fine, but I don't want automatic stuff. Start reconciling. Now, I know who NG is because I've already gone through this exercise before. And it's a bloke called Peter K.L. Who I haven't verified, but he may work at the Australian Museum too, particularly with a name like that. So I'm going to, and because it's a nuisance looking here, I sometimes do this. I just go Peter K. L. And there we go, Peter Ki Lin Ng, Singaporean freshwater field biologist. And that will match everything that's the same. So at least I've got something matching there. And I'm going to do the same thing for author 3. I'm not going to try and get all matches. It's too tedious at this stage. I'm only going to go for ones that I know. A3, and you can see that it's only partially reconciled, but that's enough for us to be able to set up a schema. So I'm going to try for this one too. I'm looking for the magic word reconcile. Come on, come on. What's happening? Oh, I haven't chosen a service. It does help if you choose what you're trying to we want a human. We don't want to auto match. We're going to start reconciling. And again, I'm only going to look at the first column, and possibly not even that. I might facet on this because I can't see what I'm looking at. So I'll text facet on A3. just so I can see who I need to find. Oh, I can do the same for our friend Ng. So let's just do him. Let's just include him. And because I don't know who Shen is, and I'm not going to bother till I find the publication. And I'm going to do a click here. Now, let's take a look. Now, the obvious thing, we haven't fully reconciled those. That doesn't matter because I want to move on. We go back to our authority and we do it paper by paper, species by species, pretty well, because it could be the case that Shane T.Ahyong's published several papers with him as a single author in the same year. So we really have to be very careful about how we go about it. So I'm going to pick the authority. I'm going to facet on it. Oh, hang on. Before I do that, I want to reset all the cells. And now I'm going to facet on authority. Text facet, the magic word, and go down. And these are really disturbing with the brackets. I'm going to choose something with either Ahyong only or Ahyong Chin. Typically, I do this, and I would choose, for example, Ahyong 2001. I might start with that just to show you how we can go about it. I'm not going to try and get all 29 of them. I'm just going to get some, which is fine. So I'm going to include these, and with any luck, this is all the same publication. Now, we haven't got a clue at this stage, but we have got a real advantage here. There's two databases that list the actual publication. Australian Faunal Directory is one, but it doesn't cover the entire world taxa. So it only covers taxa that are found in Australia, and therefore it may not be as much use in this case. The one that is really useful for us, and we'll probably find it because Wikidata is fairly mature in terms of taxa. It's got a lot of taxa up from a lot of different databases, and once it's got one taxon up, once it's gone up as a single name with a single identifier, it tends to attract others. So here we are, we've got our Alema pacifica, or whatever it is. We'll go to WORMS, which stands for, and I need to find it, the World Register of Marine Species. And what's nice, you can see Shane T.Ahyong in 2001 wrote Revision of Australian Stomapod Crustacea, and it's in Records of the Australian Museum. So that's a really good one because we'll actually be able to see that. I'm not going to do it in this instance, but Australian Museum has open access to all of its publications, and therefore you can read this publication. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to put it in for Alema pacifica publication. And now I'm going to check the rest. We've got Ankylochani and all kinds of things there. So I'm going to go to WORMS again. And one of the nice things about this, oh, look, there you go, that we've got a link directly to the PDF. Not going to worry about that for the moment because we're reconciling this publication. We're hoping to find that it's in Wikidata. So we don't need anything more than the name. I'm going to go to details, and that should tell us the series of other names that were there. Now, you can see, in fact, as we thought, look at, there's a huge number of names that were affected. Not all of them, some of them are original, and you can see additional source, basis of record, additional original description, Alema pacifica, Ankylochani. So let's have a look at our thing. Ankylochani has this as a publication, so we'll copy it, apply. Ostrosquilla middletoni, let's look for it. Ostrosquilla middletoni, original description. So that's good, excellent. We'll copy that, and we're going to stop there because we've shown you how the details page is really useful for picking out whether or not these are useful. What I'm going to do, I'm going to see if I can shift my nuisance. We don't want that. I'm going to minimize that because, right, what I'm after is, I'm just going to mark, I'll try for, we've excluded everything that we've already got up. So we should only have a handful of things that have got publications. So I'm going to aim for reconciling all of them that are still there. There's only 29, well, there's 29. So, and we've only got 2, so, or 3, so that's fine. Reconcile. And this time, because it's a long and complex name, I'm going to do it with high confidence, because typically you won't get a match if it's not relatively exact, and that looks pretty good. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to facet on publication, and the reason I'm going to do that is I just want to look at the ones that we've got there. All right, so we're going to try and put this up, and I'm going to go to Wikidata now, and I'm going to edit the schema, and I'm going to remove this schema. So the way to remove it is like that. And what you're doing with your schema is you're setting up the Wikidata statements that you're going to make. Now, the statements we're going to make are about the scientific name. We're going to add, it probably has its scientific name there, but we're going to add the authors as qualifiers to that scientific name, and we're going to add the publication as a reference. So I'm going to add it to an item, and the item is the scientific name, and this is the Q item that we are going to be describing. I'm not going to say anything about it because I believe, as I said earlier, that taxa are relatively mature, and we can expect that most of the ancillary data, like parent taxon, the rank, and so on, all of the other IDs, we saw them earlier when we hunted for the worms ID, they'll all be up. So I'm just going to put up the scientific, this gives us the subject. Remember, Wikidata goes subject, verb, object, or Q item, property, Q item, or text. So we're going to now add the statements to this Q item. And the first statement we're going to add, and I need to shift this rotten thing. I need to minimize that. Oh, dear me. I hope that's all there. Can I minimize that? I'll get it out of my way. The property I'm after, and I can start typing these because properties have already been defined, and if it doesn't come up, it isn't a property, or you've mistyped it, most likely mistyped it. Taxon name is what I'm expecting here, and it goes searching in Wikidata for this property, finds it, and it opens up something. Now, the taxon name is the scientific name, and that doesn't actually need to be reconciled at this point because you could be putting it in as text for the very first time. However, we needed it to be reconciled for us to be adding stuff here. We're going to add a qualifier, and the qualifier is, we're going to add the 3 authors. Oh, no, we're going to add all of them. It's fine. Taxon author as a qualifier, and we're going to add them in the order that they came, A1. And now, this has to be a Q item, and therefore it has to have been reconciled. Doesn't have to have been fully reconciled when you're setting up the thing. Notice we haven't fully reconciled anything. A1 is not fully reconciled. We know that. We didn't get Chan. We didn't get a whole pile of other names that came before Ayong. But we're only doing 1 publication, 2 taxa for the moment. We're going to add a qualifier, and it's taxon author again, because I might as well set this up for our later stuff, A2, and we know we've got as many as 3, so taxon author, and we reconciled at least one thing for taxon author to get a 3, and you can see there that that's looking good. Okay, the other thing we're going to add is the year of taxon publication. That's our property, and it's our qualifier. Year of taxon, and here it comes up. And I'm going to pull in year O because we got that from divvying up the original authority. Now, references. We've got 2 references. We've got the IRMNG database. So I'm going to add that. So I'm going to say that it's stated in. And again, the property comes up and it opens up the field that I'm going to do. I'm going to type this because I know it exists and all I want to do is for it to come up. And there it is. It's looking good. Interim Register of Marine and Non-Marine genera database. I'm going to add the reference number within that database. So IRMNG ID as a property, and I have that. It's here. And this is just loose text. It's coming from another database. You'll see how nice it is later on. And because we're doing this, and that database will change over time, it will not stay constant. It might keep that same number, but it might describe the animal in a different way. So it's really important to add a further field, and that's retrieved. And I pulled this data set down on the 1st of February. So I'm going to write 2023 0201, and we've got that reference in because the fact that we pulled down this data in the way that we did means that that is the IRMNG ID for this scientific name. We're going to move on. We're going to add the reference, and this is the key one that we wanted to get in. The reference is, once again, it's a stated in. And this time it's stated in the original publication that we've taken trouble to find. Now, it would be nice to have the page number, but we don't get that from worms. We can get it from the Australian Faunal Directory, but as I said, we don't know whether these taxa are Australian, and therefore it's a nuisance. If we want to add them in, we can add them in later. So it's stated in there. And there's another property we want to add here. The reference has the role. So this reference has a very particular role. And that's the property we're after. And again, I'll just start typing because I know the name of this thing. It's first valid. Now, up it pops, first valid description. And that's all I want to do. Very, very simple. I'm going to look and see whether that looks anything like I want it to look. Okay, taxon name is Alima pacifica. Fabulous. 2 references stated in that registry and also stated in this document here. And similarly, there, that looks pretty good. We would probably go export schema, and I'm going to go schema Ayong. Oops, it helps if you can spell. Hope it's in downloads. It is, and it's version 2, and I'll get rid of that 1. Okay, and I'll save it. Now, in fact, it saves automatically. If you've got a functioning schema, it will save automatically with the Open Refine stuff. But if you're worried about it or you want to use it again in some other thing, then you can import it later. So we're going back here. And what we're going to do now, we're modifying the scientific name. We don't want to create a new name. So our best bet here is to export to quick statements. I typically use some text file that I've previously used and that I'm happy to junk. So I'm replacing an earlier thing that would have looked very like what we're creating now. It would have had the Q item that we're changing and the various Q statements that we need there. Okay, they are quick statements. So where do we go from here? I always put important things, well, in places where I'm going to use them. On my user page in Wikipedia, I have some editing tools, and quick statements here is really useful because I'm often wafting into quick statements when I'm in the midst of editing. So here we go, quick statements. It's a new batch. Oh, I forgot to say, take a look at, we go back. Okay, quick statements, toolforge.org. I don't think that's exactly what it looked like, but you can go to my user page and pick up the web URL, or you can just do a search for it, looking for quick statements, Toolforge, and you'll find it. So we're going to go new batch. It's fine. Just paste them in, Control V, and this comes up in blue, which makes you think you want to click on it, but the one you actually want to click on is the one that is not in blue, and it will generate the statements for you, and they're looking pretty good. So Shane T. Ayong, and all of those things, and we're going to run it. It's not very much, and we'd like to see whether it was successful. It's looking pretty good, so we can go and check. Alima Pacifica, they're all done now. Alima Pacifica should have Shane T. Ayong 2001 together with 2 references, and there we go, looking very good. And we could actually get the page from here, and we're told it's pages 191 to 192. I'm not going to put in the figure because it doesn't take it nicely, but I'll put it in. Since we're here, Alima Pacifica is the... Oh, and see how useful the IDs are? You get directly to the databases that you're interested in. So I'm going to add this to the reference. So I'm going to go edit, because I'm fiddling with this reference, and I'm going to add the pages. Oh, and notice I didn't put stated in because the publication is the publication is the publication. It's got nothing to do with the date. That will stay fixed. So pages. So I don't need to say when I actually did the work. Control V, and you can see we've got an annoying... Oh, no, we haven't. I've managed to select it correctly. I'm going to publish that, Alima Pacifica. I'm not going to bother to do it for the other one, but I am going to check the other one. It was Anki Squealer Chani, and we're just going to check that it's looking okay and not looking peculiar. Shane T. Ayong, year of taxon publication, 2 references. There we go, looking good. All right, so we have, going back to our thing, we've got one more task to do, and that is we're going to edit the entered field. And we're going to do it in one go. I'm going to go, let's edit the cells, and we're going to do it by a transformation. And the transformation is quotes, YES, or you could put the date. You can be as fussy as you like here. Blanks are ones that I haven't entered, but it could be useful to add the date. I haven't bothered. So I'm going to go yes. And that means that I can filter out the ones I've edited and not put them in at the next time. But so we've learned a few things. We've learned that when we look at the schema, when we build up a schema, the term that we're going to put, which is the Q item that we're going to modify, it must have been reconciled. And many of the other things have to be reconciled too. Not everything. Notice the year did not have to be reconciled. It hasn't got a green under it. And you can understand why. There's thousands and thousands of years. It's just a text field. So we're happy with that. And I'm going to stop there, I think, and say thank you. I'm going to stop my screen share and thank you for everything and stop the recording.